And here we are in Martin, Tennessee. We are at East Side Cemetery. Cactus Jack here, and
I'm Barry Sowell with the Northwest Tennessee Eagle Riders. I'm the chaplain.
Jackie Laird, Director, Northwest Tennessee Eagle Riders.
All right, these guys do a lot of great things for the community and for the soldiers, for the veterans. I've heard all kinds of stories. Barry and I have been friends for a few years here, and I've heard a lot of stories. He's a Civil War reenactor, among other things. Barry told me a story, it's been a couple of months ago now, that they had been finding stones from military people who had never, well, they're finding them in garages, they're finding them in storage buildings. Tell us about how that came about, Barry.
The World War I veteran that we just placed about a month ago was found in a recycling center in Milan, Tennessee. His marker had been floating around for 62 years, and we got our hands on it and found out where the man was buried at the Memory Gardens in Benton, Kentucky. We went up there one Saturday, walked the whole cemetery, and found his grave. And Jackie contacted the people that own the cemetery, and I'll let him go on from there.
Yes, after contacting the cemetery at Memory Gardens in Benton, Kentucky, the young lady I spoke to, she said, "We put them down ourselves, and it'll cost you $328 to put these down." I said, "Ma'am," I said, "we've got everything we need, the supplies, the concrete, the marble, and the manpower to put these down ourselves. We've got a jig made up that cuts the side clean. We take care of the old dirt with us. We leave nothing behind." She said, "I don't care. It'll still charge you $328 to put this down." I said, that's unpatriotic, because, we want to get this down. She said, "Well, we do this for a job." She said, "When you go to a job, don't you make money?" I said, "I've never made a dime off our veterans, ma'am." I said, "What you're proposing is unpatriotic." So we had to go to the Marshall County Cemetery Board. We spoke with them. They were supposed to be helping us. I've yet to hear back from the Marshall County Cemetery Board. They was all for us when we were standing in front of them. When push comes to shove, they back so far off we can't even see them anymore.
So what happened with the stone?
We was able to get a hold of Mitchell Lee, the owner of the cemetery, and he was upset because he said we brought negative press to his cemetery. I said, "No, you did it all by yourself. We want to do is put this grave marker down for a World War I veteran who'd been, like Barry said, floating around for 62 years. We found out a recycling bin. Bill's Recycling wasn't about to destroy this foot marker."
Well, we got some video a few minutes ago about a Vietnam veteran. Can you tell us that story?
Yes, that's Mr. Warren Dale Cottle. Mr. Cottle, from what I was told, was the last man out of Vietnam. He was at the embassy in Saigon when the embassy was being overran by the North Vietnamese because they couldn't wait for us to get out. He was a Marine. He was under fire. He was protecting the people from the embassy, trying to let them get on a chopper from the roof of the embassy. They all got boarded. The helicopter was taken off because it was all overran. And from what I was told, Mr. Cottle ran and jumped off the embassy and grabbed the rudder of the helicopter so he could get off of it. He was physically and literally the last man out of Vietnam.
And he lived to be a ripe old age and ended up here in Martin, Tennessee. You found his footstone, right?
Yes, sir. We found his footstone. He was one of the first ones that we was able to put down. So we went forward with getting the rest of them put down that we found.
Well, Barry, were you in on any of these?
I've been on a few here. I was there when we set the World War I veteran in Benton. We also set another one because Channel 6 ran a story about this, and Jackie found out when he contacted them on the first phone call. The lady told them that they had a shed full of markers. So I put, after the story aired, I put it on our Facebook page and put my phone number on the page. And if anybody had family members that were veterans and foot markers being held hostage, to call me. And I got a phone call from a lady at her father's foot marker was one of the ones in that shed. And we did set that one the same time that we set the World War I veterans marker.
Do you still have access to these?
No, sir.
Oops.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, Mr. Mitchell Lee was supposed to get back in touch with us about setting the other 5 that was there in the shed. We've got the marble, we've got the concrete, we've got the manpower. We was there that day that we set the first 2, the World War I and the Vietnam veterans. We was there with enough manpower and all the materials we needed, but he said he didn't have them marked. So he said he'd be back in touch with us about getting these set. I've yet to hear from him, and my phone calls for some reason just don't go through to him anymore.
Well, that brings us to the next question. How do people contact you to find out about their veterans, people that their family, maybe they would like to have a footstone? In my dad's case, my dad did not have a stone. He had one of the little metal things, and someone, I assume it was my family, but I don't know. I went up there and he had a footstone just like these.
Yes.
I don't know where that came from, but I'm sure my family paid the money to the cemetery where he is. But what do you do if you have a veteran, maybe doesn't have a stone, or maybe you want to honor them? How do they contact you, or do they contact Veterans Affairs, or who?
Veterans Affairs will get the foot marker for you.
And then what?
There's no charge for this foot marker. The government gives this to the family for free. There's a local funeral home around here that while we was doing some digging, found out that this local funeral home, I'm not in liberty to call names, they was charging a family $250 to order these foot markers. They get them for free. When the foot marker would come in, they wouldn't even come to the funeral home. They'd have them shipped straight to the monument company to where it was out of their hands. The monument company in turn charged $275. This is in Henry County.
Follow the money, as always.
As always. Yes.
Tell me about your service. I'm looking at your vest there.
Yes, sir. I was in the Navy from 73 to 79. I wasn't in Vietnam, but I'm considered a Vietnam era veteran because Vietnam didn't physically, my paper didn't end until 75. But I was on a submarine repair ship in Scotland, served for 4 years active, 2 years inactive. Then I went to the National Guard for 2 years. And at the time, it wasn't convenient for me to serve it any longer. So, I mean, I left both services honorably, got an honorable discharge from them. But after my nephew died in 2006 in Iraq, Dustin Laird, he was killed in an IED. The Humvee he was riding in, well, he was driving it, ran over an IED. He turned into the IED to bring the explosion on himself instead of his men.
Praise God that we got patriots.
Yes, sir.
Barry, tell me about you.
Well, I'm not a veteran. I have 2 uncles that were Vietnam veterans. They served in country. One of them, well, I'll tell you both their names, Jim Sowell and Jack Lowry. And I rode with my uncle.
You know he's got a pair of jacks here, right?
The winning hand.
Yeah, at least he can bet.
Yes, he can. He can open.
Yeah.
My uncle Jack, I rode with him to run for the wall in 2016. We caught the motorcycles in Cookeville and we rode to DC, and it was a very, very humbling experience for myself to be with those Vietnam veterans. My mother's first cousin was in the Marines. He was killed. That's my earliest childhood memory. Sorry, I get choked up thinking about it, but that's my earliest childhood memory. When I was 4, I remember my mother getting a phone call that he had been killed. I remember his funeral. I remember the 21 gun salute. I don't remember him personally, but I've heard stories about him from my mother and my aunt all my life. And he went to high school at Chattanooga Brainerd High School, was apparently a high school football star, and they have an award that they give out every year in his name. His name was Ronald Wall, and I got to see his name on the wall. And my grandfather Reed, my mother's daddy, was a World War II veteran, and he was in the D-Day build-up, and a month before the invasion, he had a routine physical, and they found a spot on his lung and sent him home, which probably, more or less, probably saved his life.
Could very well have.
But it never turned into anything. So I mean, that was a blessing that my granddaddy survived. A lot of men did not survive that day, and my ancestors have served in every war since prior to Vietnam, all the way to the American Revolution.
And we all have a soldier story. We all have a veteran story. We all have veterans in our past. My dad was not a war veteran, but he served his country very happily, and he was in the reserves for 6 years after that. That was one of his proudest things. I have an uncle who was the same way. He served in Korea in country, and to the day he passed away. I had another uncle, two of them actually. One was a tank sergeant, and the other was just on a tank team in World War II. And this is the first I've heard of them deserving footstones. I'm going to look into this for myself and for my family. You know, this is important. And the main thing we're doing here today is getting the word out. We're going to take some video of some other stones around that these guys have set here in this cemetery. But I would like to urge other folks, other biker groups, other veterans groups, wherever you are, check it out. Check in with your funeral directors. Check in with your cemeteries and find out where these stones are, if they indeed exist, if they have not been placed. And somehow or other, if you have to pay money or if you don't, if you want to fight the fight, that's your choice. But if you want to honor your veteran, if you want to honor your serviceman, this is a really, really great way to do that.
Yes, sir.
Guys,
contact your senators. Start at the state level. Your senator, state representative. I've contacted mine. I've contacted Rusty Grills. He's my state representative. I got a phone call from his office 2 weeks ago. I told them they wanted some more information about what was going on. Told them what happened in Kentucky. And I said the same thing's happening in Tennessee, because we know of a monument place that has several markers, and so it's probably happening everywhere in this country, every state. So
I wonder if it depends on who owns the veteran, who owns the place as a veteran. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. You know, if the people that are in charge of the cemetery, if they are veterans, maybe this is closer to their heart and they're doing it a different way. I don't want anybody to think right out of the box that we're saying all funeral directors are evil, because people are people wherever you go. And you just need to find out where you are and go through the proper channels. I don't want to say that I'm inciting anybody to go stir up, go out with pitchforks and torchlight. No. Do it the right way. Honor your veterans who died, who gave their life for your country, or if you worked and served for your country, honor their service by doing it the right way. But look into it and see what you can get done.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, we could stand here and talk all day, but I'm tickled to death that you let us come in here and hang out with you. You got any parting shots?
No, sir. Just remember our National Guardsmen, reservists, unless they're deployed, they don't get a foot marker. In my eyes, that's making them feel like a second-rate veteran, and there's no such thing as a second-rate veteran.
It's something else you could talk to when you talk to your congressman and the Veterans Affairs.
Yes, sir. We're on the road to doing that, too.
Barry, you were the one that told me all about this. What do you think?
Well, I appreciate you doing this, Jack. I really do. Like I said, we had a woman contacted me last week. Her father's foot marker was stolen at a cemetery near Duketon, Tennessee, and she wanted to know what to do about it. And I said, first thing you need to do is call the sheriff's department so you can file a report that it was stolen. I said the next thing you need to do is go to your local Veterans Affairs office and see about getting it replaced. And I said, we'll be more than happy to put it down for you.
And that's the thing. These guys are doing this for no gain of no kind. I mean, they are doing this strictly because it's the right thing to do for our military, for our soldiers, our veterans, whether they were killed in combat or whether they lived to a ripe old age like Mr. Cottle over there, whatever. These people served our country. They put their lives on the line.
They went in and put their name on the line and they peeled potatoes for 2 years. They're still a veteran. They served this country.
They did what I couldn't do. I was 4F with a At the time they had a lottery, and I was 4F with a lottery number of 311. I wasn't going under any circumstances, but I did try.
Yes.
So anyway,
Yes,
for whatever that's worth, guys, we really, this is something small that you could do for the veteran in your personal life, and these guys are going to go way above and beyond to make sure it happens for you. So thank you, guys. God bless you. Thank you for your service. Barry, thank you for the
Thank you,
service
Jack.
you're doing in your everyday life. Country Conversations with Cactus Jack.